Years ago, when I was growing up by the Clyde, the highlight of my summer holidays was an 8-day ticket on the Clyde steamers. Well, with the demise of the old steamers, I didn't think it was possible nowadays to do such a thing. But I've come to Rothesay on a glorious summer's day to meet a family who are about to embark on just such a trip. This is Audrey, Peter, Emma and Jill, and we're going to be following them for the next 15 days. Well, we've made a fantastic start with the weather, so let's let these good people get on with their tea and sandwiches while we explore Bute.
Bute, described as an island of surprising peace, great beauty and infinite variety. With the glorious views of Arran from the western seaboard, yachts lying at anchor in the gentle bays and everywhere fertile green land, much of it given over to thriving agriculture, you can see why the island's much admired and cherished by visitors. All roads lead to Rothesay, the island's capital, main holiday resort and harbour. The coming of the steamboat in the 19th century brought prominence to Rothesay. The Glasgow merchants built fashionable summer homes, and it seemed as if the city emptied during the fair fortnight. The Glenburn Hotel remains as a living monument to that spacious age. The great days of the Clyde pleasure steamer have now passed into legend and are recalled nostalgically by an ever-growing group of enthusiasts. Caledonain MacBrayne have an efficient car ferry service across the Firth from the mainland terminal at Wemyss Bay, but their little Keppel gallantly carries on the tradition of inter-resort cruising. Bute is steeped in history. The imposing circular fortress of Rothesay Castle was first recorded in Viking times. Built on a mound at the edge of the sea, it played a full part in Scotland's history. Now it's surrounded by the buildings of the modern town.
There are 3 golf courses on the island, but there is little to beat the putting green and Rothesay Esplanade. After our game, we sat by the fountain and enjoyed an ice cream from one of the resort's numerous Italian cafes.
Rothesay doesn't dominate Bute entirely, with Arran as a spectacular backcloth. The long and indented west coast with its sandy beaches and numerous farms makes an ideal area for family picnics. The first Marquess of Bute, landowner of most of the island, built new cottages in the 1800s on part of his estate at Kerry Croy. Nearly a century later, the large half-timbered houses were constructed as part of this model village. It was from Kerry Croy that the age-old ferry plied to Largs before the preeminence of Rothesay. Further south is Kilcatton Bay, whose villas and tenements date from the last quarter of last century, when, thanks to its attractive setting in a broad sandy bay, it became a sizable resort. A quick look at the map shows any corners of the island still to be visited. Perhaps a run to one of Lord Bute's farms. Children do love cows. And then on to Port Bannatyne, a village directly north of Rothesay, with its stone pier, forever holding fascination to the young with the presence of yachts, motorboats and the odd fishing boat. The back door to Bute is from Gourock, some 8 miles north of Rothesay in the Cowes of Bute. Caledonain MacBrayne's Loch Ridden takes less than 5 minutes to cross to Collintrive on the Argyllshire mainland. A good modern road leads on from Collintrive, but the old coastal road is much more picturesque. Round past the head of Loch Ridden, we eventually reach Tinabruach, Gaelic for House on the Hill, where we catch another glimpse of the Keppel on one of her afternoon cruises as we have tea in the gardens of the Chalet Hotel. The direct road to Tinabruach is new and affords magnificent views over the narrows of the Cowes of Bute. But naturally, the children are more interested in a friendly horse in a nearby field. And so to the road north, past impressive Inverary Castle, seat of the Duke of Argyll, chief of the Campbells. His home's a mecca for visitors. Much older is Kilchurn Castle, on a rock rising out of the waters of Loch Orr. Through Glencoe, probably the most famous or infamous glen in all Scotland, both because of its magnificent, if not beautiful scenery, and because of its terrible historical associations. In 1692, the MacDonald clansmen were massacred in their beds by the Campbells after they'd given them hospitality. Along the south bank of Loch Leven, past Ballahoolish village, or strictly Larach, to the site of the old Ballahoolish ferry. Here, for years, countless thousands had to wait with ever-decreasing patience for the small turntable ferries that braved the tide race across the narrows of Loch Leven to take the traveller on to Fort William in the north, with a good view looking up the loch to the Pap of Glencoe. For the last decade or more, the motorist's been able to speed across the high-level Ballahoolish Bridge. Fort William is soon reached, and here we have an overnight stop at the Alexandra Hotel, well known for its good food. Although the summit of Scotland's highest mountain, Ben Nevis, is little more than 3 miles away as the crow flies, it can't be seen from the town. Fort William is a busy commercial and tourist centre. It's also the original terminus of the West Highland Railway, and from it, a steam train covers daily in summer the 41.5-mile extension to Mallaig on the western seaboard. It was during the last years of last century that the railway engineers forged ahead through difficult, demanding and often desolate country to reach the west and link up with the fishing fleets and MacBrayne's mail steamers. Throughout the line are short, sharp curves and abrupt changes in gradient with a very high number of viaducts and bridges. Here our engines passed from Ardgour to Moydat and is chugging up to the summit after Glenfinnan through bonny Prince Charlie country. Now we've reached Loch Eelt, where road and rail hug opposite sides of the loch. Wasn't that a piece of luck? It's interesting to see how many cars and train spotters follow the steam engine's progress. At last, railway and road reach the sea at the head of Loch Nanoon. At Prince's Beach, a little further round, Prince Charles Edward Stuart, the young pretender, first set foot on the Scottish mainland. An appropriate monument commemorates this.
Well, it's turned out not a bad day after all now, sitting here in Loch Oich at the Well of the Seven Heads. And after we've had a wee bit more time on the shore, we'll head over by Invergary and on to the Kyle of Loch Alsh.
And so we've doubled back and have rejoined the main A82 from Fort William north through the Great Glen and have stopped at Loch Oich before branching west past Loch Garry and through Kintail to that other west coast railhead, Kyle of Loch Alsh, and on to the north of Skye. The old castle at the edge of the sea cliff at the north tip of Skye's Trottenish Peninsula is Duntulm. Its ruins look over the Minch to Lewis and Harris, the romantic blue islands on the horizon, which we visit tomorrow.
A couple of miles south is Kilmuir. Here an old croft village has been renovated and the old cottages rethatched. And inside, visitors get a fascinating glimpse of what life was like in Skye in the days of their great-grandparents. A hard life it must have been too.
The mighty Coolin Ridge forms the background to Portree, the capital of Skye, and the only place of any size on the island, the population being well over 1,000. It's a pleasant West Highland port, which has the needs of the tourist industry very much in mind.
We've had a lovely time here in Portree. We're going to Rasay this afternoon, where we'll spend the night. Tomorrow we're going off to Harris and Lewis.
But first we visit the Dunvegan Peninsula with Dunvegan Castle, the seat of the Clan MacLeod and the oldest inhabited castle in Scotland. Visitors can also take the boat to visit the seal nurseries in Loch Dunvegan. For lunch, it's off to the Three Chimneys near Colbost in Durnish. And on our way to the Rasay ferry at Sconser, we get a magnificent view of Sgurn and Gillian from the bridge at Sligachan. Rasay is a green hilly island to the east of Skye. Rasay House has been reopened after the years of neglect of an absentee landlord. Dr. Johnson was impressed when he stayed there in 1773.
And so were we. And with an evening like this, are you surprised?
So next day to Uig in the north of Skye, where the Hebridean Isles is waiting for the voyage to Tarbet, Harris. From there, our intrepid travellers speed up the main road into Lewis, to Stornoway just in time to see the Sullivan leaving on her voyage across the Minch to Ullapool in Loch Broom. Though built in 1974, the Sullivan has been recently refurbished internally, and so has been brought up to the same standards as the most modern vessels in the fleet. She's one of the largest of Caledonain MacBrayne's mini-liners. Peter's been desperate since day one for a game of golf, so the family splits, and he explores the delights of the Stornoway course. Audrey and the girls visit the shops and the harbour. They meet again at the standing stones of Callanish. Alone among megalithic monuments, Callanish is in the form of a Christian cross, a circle of stones and 4 avenues leading away. It was as great a religious centre as Stonehenge. That was a school party in Tarbert Harris, enjoying themselves on their annual Highland tour on Caledonain MacBrayne ferries. On the west coast of Harris are the most magnificent stretches of macha you could ever imagine, with huge expanses of silver sand facing the Atlantic swell. To many people, Harris means Harris tweed, where every single web of cloth to have the orb trademark is woven by ladies like Marion Campbell, BEM, croft weavers in their own homes. So many tourists now want to leave Tarbert Harris and travel further down through the Outer Isles that Caledonain MacBrayne are actively considering placing a new ferry on their central route between South Harris and a port near Loch Maddie in North Uist. Meanwhile, the Hebridean Isles makes the direct voyage twice a week. On board is a wide selection of self-service meals and even some house wine.
Well, I'm sure you'll agree with me that Rassie was really lovely. After spending the night in Rassie, we moved on to Harris and had a lovely time on the white sandy beaches. We're now in the Uist, where we're going to spend 2 days here before moving on to Barra. Oh, I've got no Gaelic, I only know Kimmerha.
Oh, well, that's not so good then, is it?
No, but if you can answer me that, I'll understand that.
That's fine, that's fine. You could start learning today.
Yes, I could.
We were very lucky to be in the right place at the right time and to watch one of the North Uist crofters skillfully shearing his black-faced sheep under the watchful eye of his collies.
Sheep, for mutton and for wool, are the mainstay of the crofter's economy. The wool is just what's needed for the Harris tweed industry, wiry and hard. At North Uist Silver Strand, yet another traditional thatched cottage has been restored. The Dark Island Hotel is in Benbecula, nowadays joined to North Uist by a causeway. It's the flattest island in the Outer Hebrides and the windiest. Bov Castle is an important 14th century building which has survived, well, half survived, to the present day.
We're in the land of the Gael. Ruined crofts, sheep and Gaelic road signs. I wouldn't bother bringing an ordnance survey map with you. Everything here is in the Gaelic.
With an airport and a new 6-year community school, Benbecula is more than a stepping stone between the two Uists. The South Causeway links it with the largest of the middle group of islands, South Uist. The main road then goes on to cross Loch Bee. To the west is the Ministry of Defence rocket testing range. Road ends at Gourock, where a small ferry plies to the island of Eriskay, famous for its love lilt, its Bonnie Prince Charlie associations, and the wreck of the whisky boat Politician. But enough of that. The main port of South Uist is Loch Boisdale, where Caledonain MacBrayne's newest ship, the Lord of the Isles, is loading for the mainland. As the weather's turned nasty, we're glad to get aboard, where the girls insist on 40 winks in one of the comfortable cabins. The Lord has all the latest passenger facilities. She probably has the tightest schedule of any vessel in the fleet and is the only ship to sail regularly during the night as well as the day. But on this occasion, she spent the night lying at Loch Boisdale, before leaving early the following morning for Castle Bay and Oban. It's an early breakfast and then a visit to the shop to buy some souvenirs. Consumable, of course. Yes, some might say it's a bit early in the day for a pint.
Not according to Peter. We disembark at Castle Bay to explore the island of Barrow.
Castle Bay, a safe haven in a storm, is serving, as it happens, as a harbour to the yachts in the Round Britain race. It's named after Kishamel Castle, perched on a rock in the centre of the bay, the ancient stronghold of the MacNeils.
We let the Lord of the Isles leave the pier and seek the shelter of the Castle Bay Hotel.
The Atlantic swell's too tempting, though, and they brave the elements as the surf breaks on the exposed western shore. It's Sunday afternoon, and the Iona has arrived to take us on the long voyage across the Sea of the Hebrides to Mallaig. Mallaig, you'll remember, is the final destination of the West Highland Railway. It's also the mainland port for the small isles of Egg, Muck, Rum and Canna and the south of Skye. One of Calmac's smaller vessels, the Loch Moor, is purpose-built for the small isles mail service and leaves Mallaig 5 times a week on this schedule. A first stop is usually a ferry call at Egg, whose outstanding landmark is the Sgúr, rising sheer for hundreds of feet. Egg is a charming, peaceful island. The road leads under the escarpments to the singing sands that really do hum and hiss when you walk over them, with glorious views of Rum. Rum used to be the Forbidden Island when it was owned by Sir George Bullock. He lavished his love and his money on the island. He built Kinloch Castle and had it furnished sumptuously. His widow gave the castle to the Nature Conservancy when they acquired the island. The Iona's main employment is on the summer tourist route from Mallaig across the Sound of Slate to Armadale and Skye. This is Lord Macdonald territory, and the recently restored Clandonald Centre is of great interest to the visitor, whether a distant relative of the chief or not. All the islands teem with bird life, from the soaring eagles of Rum and the quaint puffins of Staffa to the humbler but no less charming chaffinches and tits seen here in the Slate Peninsula. Lying off Armadale is a former MacBrayne ferry Columba, now refurbished for the mainly American tourist market as Hebridean Princess. By taking the road across the back of the peninsula through Tascavaig to Ord, you're rewarded by one of the most magical views of the Coolins, contrasting vividly with the crofting shore at your feet. The familiar outline of Castle Moyle tells us we've reached Kyleakin, the main ferry terminus in Skye. The Loch Alsh and Kyleakin provide a very frequent service across the strait to Kyle of Loch Alsh. A must is the short drive east of Kyle to the castle from the postcard or the shortbread tin, Elan Donnan, projecting out of the water where 3 lochs meet. The reality is no disappointment. And so we retrace our steps back to Mallaig and the West Highland Hotel. Just south of Mallaig is Loch Morra, at a depth of over 1,000 feet, a geological freak, and the deepest water in Britain. Between it and the sea is Scotland's shortest river, only a quarter of a mile long. Here are the sands of Morra, very popular with tourists, for the pure white sand is backed by dunes and is readily accessible from the road. In good lighting conditions, the water here is a beautiful green. We drive along the Moidart coastline near Castle Tyrum of the MacDonalds of Clanranald. Externally, it's in a good state of preservation, considering it dates from the 14th century. Soon we reach Loch Allen.
We left Mallaig this morning and we're now heading over to Mull. Time's passing all too quickly in this holiday.
The water is the sound of Mull, and we cross in Caledonain MacBrayne's Isle of Cambrai, a car ferry which, as its name implies, started life on the Clyde. A large capacity is needed for this busy back door to the Isle of Mull, with Duart Castle, away to port, at the entrance to the Sound. Mull has its own passenger railway, a miniature steam railway of 10¼ inch gauge, stretching the 1½ miles between the main ferry terminus at Craignure and Torresey Castle. The brainchild of Graham Ellis, the railway was officially opened in June 1984. It trades as the Mull and West Highland Narrow Gauge Railway Company Limited and attracts many tourists every year. From the train, we can see on passage to Oban, Caledonain MacBrayne's largest ferry, the Isle of Mull. And as you can see, the girls did fulfill their ambition to travel in the engine cab. Tobermory, capital of Mull, is an attractive little town, surrounding arguably the finest and certainly the most picturesque harbour in the Hebrides.
Well, I suppose it can't be sunny all the time.
How long is your autopilot on for?
Well,
As soon as you leave?
that's right. It works. You can work the ship by manual steering, which we do when we're going in and out of piers, approaching piers. But as soon as we leave a pier, we go on to automatic pilot. And once you set the ship on the...
Key in the course.
Yeah, you key in the course and the ship will steer. This particular one, it can be connected onto a navigator, and you can put in what they call waypoints. So in theory, you could set the ship up we're leaving Oban, and it'll take herself all the way to Loch Boysdale, you know,
Okay, yeah.
without having to touch
Picking up
it.
radio signals.
Yeah, that's right.
Now on board the Isle of Mull, after a visit to the bridge with Captain Billymore, the girls are enjoying the children's play area. The Claymore waits at Oban to take us on the next leg of our journey. Soon we're away again, sailing through the Sound of Kerrera, with the island of Kerrera to starboard, gazing at the seagulls or passing yachts. The bow, with the St Andrew's cross on the flagpole, points south into the afternoon sun. Soon we reach Scalasig, the main township on Colonsea. It's a pity there's not time to explore more of this charming island, because it has much to offer. Caloran Bay, for example, can claim to be the finest bay in all the Hebrides, but that's for another day. The Claymore casts off again, and sailing past the gently curving paps of Jura, makes for Port Askaig in Islay. We've booked into the Machree Hotel, which is actually nearer the other and more substantial port in Islay, Port Ellen. Next morning, the now familiar Claymore is seen at the harbour. On the road east from Port Ellen lies Laphroaig, whose distillery makes the peatiest and the most distinctive of the famous Islay malts. Back at Machree, I see Peter's been persuaded to have another game of golf, and this time over the splendid course attached to the hotel. Incidentally, both the hotel and the golf course are approaching their centenary. Another distillery? Well, yes, Islay has 8, all producing subtly different single malts. Bowmore is the most central and caters for visitors with guided tours and videos. Distillation, the process which actually produces the whisky, takes place traditionally in these pear-shaped copper stills. Port Charlotte, on the peninsula known as the Rins of Islay, to the far side of Loch Endal, is a pretty village and ideal for picnics and messing about on the beach, or in boats. At the hotel, dinner arrangements are very civilized. The children are fed first in the nursery. Then, the parents can relax in the dining room and enjoy the full a la carte menu.
We're sitting here now in the Machree Hotel, having had a lovely meal and a super day here. We went to the 2 distilleries, Laphroaig and Bowmore, and then headed up to Port Charlotte, where we played in the beach and enjoyed the sunshine. Tomorrow morning we're going to Kennaquhaig. We'll be visiting here before spending the evening in Stonefield Castle Hotel, where we're going to have a barbecue. We're still enjoying our holiday despite the wet weather. There's plenty to do here in Stonefield Castle. There's a sauna, pool room and television. Tomorrow we're heading off to Loch Ranza, where we'll spend 2 days there.
Next morning dawned bright over the yachting anchorage at Tarbert Loch Fyne, and so the chance was taken to make up for lost time and sail on MV Bruinish, complete with new skipper, across the Sound from Teign in Kintyre to Ardminish on the picturesque and unspoilt island of Gigha. It was Colonel Horlick who bought Achamore House and created a wonderland of colour and bloom in the garden, which became one of the finest in Britain. A quiet lunch held out in the open at the Gigha Hotel brings this delightful visit to a close. Back on the mainland, on the east side of Kintyre, the Loch Ranza approaches Clonig to take us across the Kilbrannan Sound to the northwest corner of Arran. As a tourist attraction, your island passport is stamped at the local post office, and this facility is available on all the islands. Brodick is the main centre, and Brodick Castle one of its main attractions. It's a fusion of architectural styles from the early 15th century to Victorian times. Formerly the splendid seat of the Dukes of Hamilton and Earls of Arran, now the property of the National Trust for Scotland. 30,000 people visit the glorious gardens every year. And from here you can just see the Isle of Arran on her voyage across. Next to Brodick in size is Lamlash, set in an excellent natural harbour. It's a favourite anchorage for yachtsmen. Throughout the Highlands and Islands, little craft shops abound, selling tasteful souvenirs, and often the results of the labours of local artists and craftsmen. Corrie's craft shop also deals in antiques. Seen in the background, the Holy Isle is the 1,000-foot natural breakwater for Lamlash Bay. The village itself, with its old stone pier prominent, is a favourite with the visitors. Apart from the main road round the island, there are two exhilarating crosslinks on Arran, the String Road and here the Ross Road, a fine journey to make on a free afternoon. The aerial view of Brodick Castle is best for showing the Cromwellian Battery and the 16th century main building on the right and the Victorian Tower on the left.
We're staying at Auchrane Country House Hotel in Brodick, renowned for its good food.
Well, throughout the fortnight we've done such a variety of things. We've played in deserted white sandy beaches, we've visited lots of castles, distilleries, craft shops and woolen mills. Really good idea for a holiday. I'd recommend it to anyone.
The last of Caledonain MacBrayne's major units, the Isle of Arran, built in 1984, was incidentally the first in the fleet to have facilities for the disabled and pioneered the popular no-smoking lounge. As we approach Ardrossan, let's feed the ever-present and ever-hungry seagulls, hopefully without disastrous results. Ardrossan Harbour is reached well within the hour, and soon we're on our way up the coast to Largs to join the queue for the Loch Striven, the ferry for Cambrai, a mere 10 minutes away. The town of Millport extends about 2 miles round a beautiful bay. The Round the Island Road skirts the level seashore and is a must for anyone who can ride a bike. But on a fine summer's day, well, there's nowhere better to relax than on the sands of Cambrai.
Okay, so next time I read the smaller print. Well, how was it then?
Great.
And what were the best bits?
I like this thing train for outside, and I like the sandy beaches and terrace.
I was fascinated by the standing stones in the castles.
The golfing was excellent, and the distilleries weren't too bad either.
I don't doubt that. Well, will there be anything else, madam, before I retire to do the dishes?
No, that's all. That's the best family holiday we've ever had.